different skins for the collectibles, we need to work in this sprite. So let's open the collectible sprite. We're going to hit Edit Sprite, and we're going to add two new frames here. We can click twice on Add an Empty Image. So we have image 0, image 1, and image 2, and we can simply open each of these images and draw whatever we want here. So I'm going to add a pink gem, which is going to be a little circle. Let me make it a bit purple. So white for the outline and purple for the fill. So it looks like this. We drag and drop and we have our first gem. We could even add another layer here to give it a bit of a different look. And I'm going to double click image 2 here and give this a zoom. Use red as the fill color, and let's make it a bit differently. I'm going to make it look more like an hourglass for some reason. I'm just drawing random shapes here which differ a bit from each other. Okay, and maybe add a little detail here. Alright, so we can click here to save this hourglass shape. And what is going on here is when we have different images, one right after the other, GameMaker is going to animate this sprite that we created. Okay, so this is no longer an image. Actually, this is a sprite which contains 3 different images. And since we have more than one image, they are going to be automatically animated. So we have to do a few things. First of all, we have to disable the animation speed. Okay, we need to tell the collectible that we don't want this animation to be played. Okay, we don't want it to start. We want it to simply not to be called. And in the game we want to choose a random frame of this sprite. So to do this, let's save the changes. Okay, so you confirm that when you edit sprite you have these 3 here, so you can click here and let's save that. We're going to the collectible object and we're going to add an event here. Just like we did with the player, we're going to add a create event to the collectible. So we click on add event, we select create, and we're going to draw a piece of code here. So let's give this a title. So choose random frame. Okay, so first of all we're going to set image underscore speed to be 0. Okay, when we do this there will be no animation at all. Now notice that whenever you type image underscore, you're going to see a few suggestions for our code. So if sometimes you are in doubt of what is the correct variable name that you have to call, you can just type that and there are going to be some suggestions for you. So we have 2 things here. We have image underscore index and image underscore number. Image underscore number is the amount of images that your sprite contain. So for our collectible sprite, this should return 3. Okay, because we have 3 different frames. Now image underscore index, it says it's the index of the image that is being shown. So when we set image speed to 0 and no animations is going to happen, the image index is going to be 0. So that's the first image. If you have never programmed, this might be a bit odd, but when you're dealing with arrays in computer programming, the most common type of arrays are their indexes are based on 0. So the first image is 0, the second image is 1, the third image is 2, and you can go that ad infinitum. So what we're going to do is image underscore index equals to something. Okay, just for testing, I'm going to set image underscore index to be 2. Let's play the game to see what's going to happen. Okay, so we should have no animations running, and when we type image underscore index, we should have the hourglass, which is the 3rd sprite that we added here. Okay, and of course if you use image index as 1, you're going to see the pink gem. Okay, now we want to have a random image index here. We want it to be either 0, 1, or 2. How do we do this? We're going to call a function. We're going to use irandom. Okay, so when we call irandom and we type here 5, for example, we're going to have a random number, and that number is an integer number, so there will be no decimal part to it, and that number could be either 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So the last number is also included. So what we're going to do here is type image underscore number, which should return 3, but we have to do a -1 here, Because remember, image number is going to return the amount of images. So we have 3. But indexes, they start in 0. So the only valid indexes for us are 0, 1, and 2. Okay, so this has to be irandom 2. Okay, and however, we are using image underscore number and subtracting 1 because this code is better. And it is better because if you change the amount of images the collectible sprite contain, you don't have to change your code. Okay, it's just going to calculate things right for you. If you have 10 different images for the collectible, it's going to work the same way. You don't have to touch this line of code. So let's click on run the game now. We'll wait for the code to compile, for everything to be ready for us. And after the game opens, we have gems of all types. We have collectibles of the 3 different frames, and this works just fine for us. Okay, now to have different collectibles here in this scene to collect, we should make a logic for them to spawn continuously. Okay, so first of all, what we're going to do is we're going to the room and we're going to delete these instances that we see here. So we are going to clear our room, and after that we're going to make an abstract object, so an object which contains no sprite, which is going to control the rules of the game. Alright, see you in the next video. Let's go ahead and make a game controller object. We're going to go to the Objects folder, right-click here, and select Create Object. We're going to name this obj_game controller. And before we write any events or actions, let's hit OK to save that object. We're going to our room here in the Objects tab, and we're going to click here on where it says Object to add with left mouse. We're going to use obj_game controller. And let's add that game controller in the top left of the room, outside of it. You're going to see that it is a blue circle with a red question mark. However, it's just to say that there are no sprites, and you can yet see that there is something here. There's an object instance lying here. So we do this just to guarantee that whatever code we write for the game controller is going to run. Okay, so we're going to hit Add Event. We're going to select Step and then Step. Okay, so let's drag a code block here. Now we're going to type a title for this, so spawning collectibles, and now we have to make the logic for spawning these collectibles. So what we're going to do is we're going to add an if block. Okay, we have to check how many collectibles we have in the scene. So we're going to use instance underscore, and then we have a few options here. So we have instance number, for example, when you call instance number, you pass an object as a parameter here. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to pass obj_collectible. This function, which receives one argument, is going to count how many collectibles we have in the game. And if this amount is lesser than 10, we're going to spawn a collectible. Okay, we're going to add a collectible dynamically to the game. And how do we do this? We're going to call another function. We're going to use instance underscore create. Instance underscore create receives 3 arguments. We have to pass x, y, and obj. So we have to pass the coordinates where we want to add a collectible, and we have to pass the object, okay, the prefab that we're going to use, which is going to be the collectible. So we create an instance of that object. So x position, let's use irandom, and I'm going to pass 800 here because that's the width of the room. For the vertical position, it's going to be irandom, and I'm going to pass 640 because that's the height of the window. And as for the object, it's going to be obj_collectible. So what this does is whenever we have less than 10 collectibles in the game, we're going to add a new one in a random position. Alright, let's click now on run the game. So the code compiles and our game runs to see the collectibles spawning. And there we go, we have 10, and every time we collect a new one, another one appears. So we can run like crazy here and collect as much elements as we can. So this is going to be fun. In the next video, we're going to add a very basic interface that is going to put some instructions and say, for example, touch all the gems. for instance. And after that, we're going to learn how to add a score count and then make a little countdown timer for the player to race. See you in the next video. To make an interface, first of all, we need to have a font. So of course we can type anything. So we're going to the fonts folder, right click and select create font. We're going to name this FNT underscore Arial. So we're going to use the Arial font here. Size, we're going to use 18. Okay, and you can mark bold here just to make it easier to read. So we can click OK. And now we have to use one of our objects to draw an interface. We're going to use the game controller, which is the one that makes much more sense. We're going to click on add event, and then we're going to draw and mark draw GUI. Okay, GUI stands for graphical user interface. So let's drag and execute code block, and we're going to type here 3 slashes for a title comment, and we're going to use draw instructions, for example. So before we draw any instructions, we have to call 2 functions. We're going to use draw underscore set underscore font, and that function receives one argument, which is going to be FNT underscore Arial. We also need to set the color, because if we don't, it is going to default as the black color, and as the background of our room is black, we need to be careful with that. So let's use draw underscore set underscore color, and we need to pass a color as a parameter. GameMaker conveniently defined some constants for you to use colors. To access these color constants, you can type C underscore and then just wait or press Ctrl space to see some suggestions. You can use aqua for a light tone of blue, you could use green, maybe yellow. Let's just go with white. Okay? So it contrasts well with the room. And now to type any text we want, we just need to type draw underscore text. Now we set the position of that text. I like to use 10 and 10, so it is equally distant from the horizontal and vertical axis from the top left. And the text needs to be a string, and strings you define by adding double quotes to the beginning and the end of it. And here we're going to type collect all the gems. That should be everything we need. We add a final parenthesis here, so we close this parenthesis block, a semicolon to finish our statement. And now let's hit run the game to see our instruction appearing here. So let's wait for the code to compile, and there we go. We have our player here, and we have the collect all the gems instruction. So now, what if we want to add here how many gems we collected? How do we keep track of the score so we know how quickly we are collecting things? Okay, so let's go to the player here, and where we say we collide with an object, collectible object. We're going to run this code here, and when we destroy the collectible we get, we're going to type score plus plus. That means that we have a score variable which is shared by all objects, which of course contains the player score. Okay, so whatever points we're going to keep track here. And we use plus plus because we're going to increment 1 to whatever is stored here. So if the score is 0, it is going to become 1. If it is 10, it's going to be 11, 15, then 16. So it increases 1 number in that variable, which is exactly what should happen every time we collect a gem, a collectible. Now we can go back to our game controller, to the draw GUI event. Let's open this action here, and now this is what we're going to do. In the same line where we add a text, we're going to add a hashtag right after this exclamation mark here, and that hashtag character starts a new line. Okay, so whatever we add here is going to be in a new line. Now we're going to type score, then a colon and a white space, and after that we're going to append to something else. So to append strings, you just have to add that addition character and type whatever other string you add. So internally this is going to become this. Okay, so when we use score and we append with whatever string, internally GameMaker is going to do that Okay, so instead of whatever, of course, we need to add our score. So the first thing you might imagine is you just have to change that for score. That is almost right, but score is a number, and to append a string you need to pass another string. So instead of just using score, we're going to enclose it in a string function. Okay, we're going to call a string function which contains one argument, and the argument is whatever we want to turn into a string. Okay, so we just add it like this. We now hit on run the game. Let's wait for the code to compile, for everything to be ready. And after it is, we can keep track of how many gems we collected. So we are on 20 and then 30, so you can just run like crazy here to collect as much gems as we can. Okay, this should be it for this video, and now everything we need to do is add some challenge here, because we just touch the gems here, collect as much as we can, and just spend some time. So what if we have a time limit? What if we have only 10 seconds to collect as much as we want? This is going to be interesting because you can later challenge your friends and make them challenge themselves to see who gets the best score in 10 seconds. Let's learn how to do this in the next video.